wanted to ask you a few questions about your dad. Did you ever know your dad to be suicidal at any point in his life?
No.
Have suicidal ideations?
No.
You testified yesterday that you didn't like to go to the farm very much, and you attributed that to your parents' relationship was one of those factors. Did you ever share that information with your dad?
Yes.
How did you do that?
I wrote an email to him after he was in the hospital. I would say somewhere around May of 2018. And I just, because it's my dad, it was easier for me to communicate what I needed to say in an email because I couldn't really get through it in person.
And what is it that you communicated it to him?
I told him why I don't come up there as much.
Did he ever respond to you?
Yeah. Yes.
Did that response give you a glean into his state of mind at the time?
Yes.
How so?
He told me that he was very depressed, and he said that each day with my mother was pretty much the worst day of his life versus the day before. Like every day was the worst day of his life.
Chris, did you have anything to do with the murder of your father?
No.
Did you have anything to do with the concealment of your father and the grandfather of your children?
No.
That's all I have for you. Thank you.
And Your Honor, it might be best to go ahead and turn the TV on. I'm going to kind of go back and forth between the Elmo and the computer. But maybe start with the Elmo. Good morning, Chris. My name is John Luke Weaver, and I, along with Michael Ray, represent your mother. I want to go back and you spoke at length about a lot of things yesterday, but I want to go into more detail on some of them. And first I want to go kind of back to your childhood and more of the family dynamics between the brothers and the sisters growing up. So you're the oldest. You were born in 1979 or 1980?
1980.
1980. And then who was born second?
My brother Scott.
Okay, what year was he born?
1983.
All right. And then what about Emily?
Emily was born, I believe, in, I think 1989, I believe so.
Okay, what about Amanda?
She was born basically a year and a half later, so it would have had to have been 1990. It could have been 1988, 1989, or 1989, 1990. I should probably know that.
So maybe your sister Amanda was born in 89, and Emily was born in 88 or 87?
Possibly.
Okay. All right. So you grew up in Hoover for the most part?
Correct.
And let's talk a little bit about the personalities of the kids growing up. So how would you say your personality was? How about it's always self-introspection is also often a very tough thing to do. So I'll ask you last. How about Amanda's growing up? Introvert, extrovert? Was she funny, not funny? Things like that.
Very outgoing and great personality, very funny.
All right. What about Emily?
Emily was, I think, a little bit more reserved, but very smart, very witty, and just very, very kind.
Okay. And how about Scott?
Scott was just a lot of fun to have his little brother. He just a sweet soul.
What about, so how did everybody do in school?
I did fairly well. I had my moments when I could have done better. My brother had a few issues. I'm not sure what that was. I wasn't, in the part of those discussions, but I think it was maybe some learning difficulties type thing, possibly. But I don't really know. My sisters, both, from what I understand, what I remember, did very well in school.
All right. And what about behavioral growing up? Who was well behaved and maybe less well behaved?
We were all very well behaved.
Never got in trouble?
We got in trouble.
Anybody have, temper, any anger issues? Never.
No.
Not at all growing up.
I don't remember that. No.
You don't remember your brother having any anger issues and a short temper as a child?
No.
Okay. Do you remember? Scratch that. So you moved to Atlanta in 95?
Correct.
Alpharetta, roughly.
Yes, sir.
All right. And tell me what you remember about that move.
I remember it being a little hard on myself. It was in high school. But I was very excited. I loved Atlanta. I loved the Braves. I loved visiting Atlanta. So the move itself was very smooth. It was exciting. We were moving to a new home, and my dad was moving up in his career, and I remember it being a good time.
Do you remember anything about why your dad was moving to Atlanta, moving the family to Atlanta?
Because of his career.
Right, but why? Why was your dad, do you know why your dad was chosen to open the Burn Foreman branch in Atlanta? Did you know any of that from your experience as a teenager?
I know my father was a very brilliant attorney and a very smart man and very good at his job.
Did he volunteer? Did in your experience? You don't know?
I don't know.
And that's fine. Now, talking about your yesterday you mentioned that everything kind of prior to about 2008 was good with the family.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the way you would have described it. So can you tell me, I've heard and maybe understood that holidays were kind of a big deal. Can you explain to me, how you guys would celebrate Christmas? You mentioned a fond memory yesterday of Christmas, but if you could explain to the jury.
Everybody was always just happy, and my mama would cook. My daddy would...
What would she cook?
Oh, breakfast. We'd have a big breakfast and all the good, stuff, and bacon, eggs, and then she always would make a Christmas meal. It was very nice, and my father would always have his Bing Crosby on in the morning, and the night before we'd watch Christmas Vacation every year, and it was good times.
And this was from the time you were a child all the way until the final Christmas in 2017?
Yes.
And it's my understanding too that how would your mom decorate the house? Would there be a little or a lot?
A lot.
Could you explain a little bit?
We would not have just one Christmas tree. We would have a few of them. It was always decorated very tasteful. It brought a lot of joy to me personally.
Okay. And let's talk too about activities growing up. Did you guys play any sports? Were y'all involved in school activities, things like that?
Yes.
Like what?
Growing up, I played baseball. My dad actually assistant coach. He would make time for that, even though he was very busy. My brother played sports. He played baseball. My brother played a little bit of football in high school until he broke his leg. I know my sisters, Amanda did color guard, I believe. And then I think Emily was, did some work with some athletic programs in high schools. I think she was maybe a manager for like the wrestling team, those things like that.
So would the whole family kind of participate, go to the games, your mom included?
For my games, yes.
Your mom would go to your games?
Yes.
Scott's games?
Yes.